Sometimes people go missing, so we do everything we can to find them. Welcome to Talking News with Debbie. It's been several months now, and there's still no signs of Sarah I.made.
Instead of a shovel, an axe, some heavy-duty trash bags.
Andrea McDonald is a wonderful human being who is like an angel here on earth.
Have you seen this girl? These people are still missing. Can you help us find them?
Hi guys, welcome to Talking News. Chasing a murder. We're going over the Kelsey Berreth case. Please don't forget to subscribe and like right now so you don't forget. Also remember guys, we're now going to start getting more of the facts. Well, the facts that are presented in trial. So we're able to get a little bit more accurate information. But first, let's start talking about the beginning of this trial. So the actual trial started October 22nd, but like always, it's going to have a very slow start because they have to select a jury. Right now, they have selected 12 jurors and 4 alternates. So right now, there is a huge line at this 115-year-old courthouse in this very small town in Woodland Park, Colorado. They also call it the Cripple Creek area. And this town's been trying to get ready for the chaos and the mess of crowds of people who are interested in attending this trial. And some of those people that are going to be in the courtroom is Dr. Phil, is what we're hearing, for example, and other places, people from shows like 2020. Pretty much every network in this nation wants to be in that courtroom, and many from around the world. So the talk is right now that this is the trial of the century. As always, guys, I want to refer you to my earlier videos. If you have not heard anything on this case, go check out what we knew before it started, and maybe you can take those, what you learned, and compare it to what we're about to find out. But right now, the public is left out in the cold. We are not allowed to hear or see anything. They're not even allowing anyone to tweet in the courtroom. So what is everyone talking about? So what they're saying right now is Patrick Frazee, his life hangs in the balance of the potential jurors. And some of these jurors are saying that, this case had invaded his dreams since the beginning, when he was called for duty. And this is because he knows, and all these jurors know, that this decision at the end of this trial is going to affect many, many people. And that's according to one of the jurors. They said, it won't only affect him, but it will affect our whole community. And that's where people are some kind of questioning, because it is such a tight-knit community. They felt like at the beginning of this trial, when Kelsey Berreth went missing, they were worried whether or not justice was really going to come for that girl. So if you're new, I'm going to give you a very quick glimpse into who Kelsey Berreth was. So Kelsey Berreth was a beautiful 29-year-old mother who was the fiance of a local in Colorado in a small town, Woodland Park. She was a pilot, she was a mother, and according to her friends and family, she was just the most amazing, sweet person, the nicest person you could have ever met. But she disappeared November 22nd. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and continue with talking about what's happening with court today. Now, a news team was talking to a few people, and they were asking, what if he is found not guilty? Well, a lot of people said that if he is found not guilty, there is still a missing woman. And that's a huge deal. So there was about 3 hours of questioning Friday morning. And a 12-person jury, 4 alternates, like I mentioned earlier, were chosen to make a weighty decision of whether there is enough evidence in this high-profile case to actually convict Patrick Frazee for the murder and the disappearance of Kelsey Berreth. This is probably the biggest thing to hit Teller County in a very long time. And like so many of us, we are definitely worried whether or not, once they do their opening statements today, which they plan on doing, I mean, this is supposed to happen today, Friday, November 1st, 2019, for those that will be viewing this in the future. Whether or not this is going to be a complete fair trial, because we feel like it's really not gone in a direction we felt it should have went from the get-go. Don't forget, they live in this town where everybody knows everybody, and you can believe that they have several generations in that town, not to mention they have relatives that work on the police force. The first investigation into Kelsey Berreth's disappearance, remember, they didn't find anything whatsoever. It wasn't until Cheryl Berreth, which is supposed to speak on stand today, which make sure I mention that is the mother of Kelsey Berreth. She come and stayed at the townhome of Kelsey Berreth while she was missing, where her and her son, Kelsey Berreth's brother, found what they thought was some forensic evidence on the toilet. Of course, investigators went back out to the scene. They, at that point, they took a different direction in this case. It was no longer just a missing persons case. There was more going on, and they were having to treat it as a homicide. And this is because investigators, once they looked through the house and talked to witnesses, they found out that there was tons of evidence that pointed to the fact that Kelsey Berreth might not or may no longer be here. So while forensics are working the scene at Kelsey Berreth's townhome, you have investigators that are talking to a woman that lives in Idaho, Krystal Lee Kinney. She's a nurse in the area. She lives with her ex-husband and her children in the same household. She had been plotting multiple times, at least 3 times, but they're saying could be 4 or more times, and planning to help get rid of Kelsey Berreth. She met Patrick Frazee in Woodland Park, Colorado, several and multiple times, planning out a strategy. Investigators uncovered this, and it's a while before the public really hears about her. She made a plea deal, and that plea deal was she would testify that Patrick Frazee was the person that made Kelsey Berreth disappear. I have to choose my words carefully, guys. And so they struck a deal with her. You be the witness, testify, and we'll just pretty much charge you with tampering with evidence with up to a 3-year sentence. So as the hearings start to fire up, especially later next week and starting from November 1st, trial will start to merge into a 1-year anniversary with Kelsey Berreth when she was last seen, which was November 22nd. And as you know, Patrick Frazee faces 2 counts of first-degree murder. So what does the court have to work with? So some of the things that they have to work with is the November 22nd Safeway security camera, where it captures the last glimpse of Kelsey Berreth. She's seen walking into the Safeway with her daughter, almost 1 year old at the time, and everything appeared to be fine. Didn't seem anything was wrong. So what Kelsey Berreth shopping for? She was shopping for the ingredients to make Patrick Frazee, her fiance, a sweet potato pie. We know this because of the texts that later come out. In fact, I'm sure those texts are going to be used as some of the number one evidence on this trial. Oh, Lord, in trial. Sorry, guys. Some of the other, evidence is where he says he meets Kelsey Berreth in an alleyway at her townhouse, which is in a parking area there, where they switch out the daughter, and Patrick Frazee goes to a bank, then to Walmart, where he's captured on security camera as well. But the one thing Patrick Frazee did, which I'm interested in hearing in court, is the lady, one of the associates at the bank said, he asked if security camera seen his daughter. And I remember them telling us, that they said the evidence in this case is very weak. And I really don't understand this because I've seen other cases that have way, less evidence than this case. So some of the concerns with this case, I want to address that as well, is what the defense, Patrick Frazee's defense, plans to do about the witness, Krystal Lee Kinney. Well, from the horse's mouth, this is what they say. So defense plans to tear down Krystal Lee's credibility as much as possible. He says, what better way to do that than to say she is more involved in this crime than she's going to say. And that gives her the motivation to fabricate what the defendant, Patrick Frazee, did. And that's according to Stephen Logo. So in other words, what they're trying to say is they're going to try to get Patrick Frazee off by saying that she's a big fat liar and possibly even point their finger toward her. But it seems like to me they're focusing more on just making sure that her testimony is not going to be credible. So the fact that she saw everything is a lie, and that's his only chance to get off. And they feel like that's a strong road to take, and it seems that that's what they're going to do. Now, what gets me with this, that's fine and dandy. I mean, they could take that approach, but what about all that phone evidence that they had, where they were able to track all three phones at times together? What about the security footage from Kelsey Berreth's townhome or the complex there? A neighbor captured an image that had the almost exact likeness of Patrick Frazee going into the townhome the last day that Kelsey Berreth was seen. So we've heard some rumors of what they found as well. So yeah, all of this stuff is going to come out in trial, and it's going to finally come out to where we can finally put all the puzzle pieces together and probably tell the story and then some. But I knew anyways, that Patrick Frazee isn't the type to go down without a fight. And if he can make it confusing and difficult to make the decision of who's guilty, well, that can really help him out tremendously. Okay, I want to share this, guys, and this is coming from the District Attorney Dan May, and it was said of Kinney in February, according to KMGH-TV. Quote, "We wouldn't even know where the murder happened in the apartment, even which room or where it happened at all without her testimony," end quote. So who is Dan talking about? He's talking about Krystal Lee Kinney, the nurse that is supposed to testify against Patrick Frazee and give the gruesome details of what happened to Kelsey Berreth. And they're just giving her so much praise that, we know this story. We know that she made attempts and chickened out, and she doesn't deserve any sort of praise. She is no hero, no matter what anybody says, you know? This woman is a complete monster. She, she has a few friends that I have to question, Michelle Stein especially. We know that they're quite deceiving. They manipulate, and I'm sure that's going to come up in court, and that's going to be used against Krystal Lee when she does testify. There might even be some surprise information come out pretty soon. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, Patrick Frazee is a liar, too. But Krystal Lee Kenny, my gosh, she has a lifetime of lies. And it's going to be, I think it'll be easy for defense to probably discredit her, definitely. But what happens if that happens, guys? Share that in the box below. I want to know if any of you are lawyers or that are watching. Do you know what can happen if they are able to prove Krystal Lee Kenny's testimony is not worthy? What happens then? I mean, we have two people there who attempted to take the life of Kelsey Berreth. That's been admitted. The only thing Krystal Lee has for her is her friends, which are also liars, to say, yes, they were able to confirm that Patrick Frazee said, he asked her to dispose of Kelsey Berreth. I mean, they do have that. You got those two attorneys, the Rockstalls. You got Michelle Stein. We don't know. I can't remember. I don't have the notes in front of me. I apologize on the Megan girl. But we do know they knew about this back in October, the very beginning of September. Excuse me, I said that wrong. Even possibly into September, through October, and into November, that Krystal and Patrick were plotting to take the life of Kelsey. I felt the evidence was pretty strong, considering some of the other cases we've heard in the past, right? Well, let's hope so. So, we also heard that Kelsey Berreth's mother will be taking a stand and testifying. And what do we expect that she's going to testify about? So, most likely, I'm thinking it's going to be what she found inside the townhome. The phone calls where she started to feel like something was wrong, and probably the text that didn't really coincide with from Patrick Frazee with what really happened. I mean, there's so much information on this case, I can't even hardly keep up with it. There's tons and tons of evidence that they have. That's why I don't understand how it's weak evidence. Unless what they're talking about is the physical or the forensics part of it, which that has to be it, and the fact that they were not able to locate her. But still, I mean, we've seen cases where they've had less. And to me, the fact of, we'll have to wait and see, actually, and see how the defense presents this new direction that they're wanting to take. How they're going to, address the issue with Krystal Lee Kenny. So it's really hard to kind of predict, especially since I am not a law expert at all. Okay, guys, so this is what I know so far. So on November 1st, we have 7 women and 5 men who are seated as jurors, with 2 women and 2 men as alternates. Attorneys were to deliver their opening statements beginning at 2 p.m. today. And so on October 28th, they did have jury selection. I want to make sure I mention that, where they had 1,700, just around about, residents who were called as potential jurors. That's 7% of the county's population of 25,000 rounded off people. And who wouldn't want to be a fly on the wall right now? So what makes me angry is that you have these celebrities that are able to walk in there like they're gods, when you have so many people out there that are put to the side. It just makes me mad. So this is basically our opening statement for our coverage of this trial. So guys, keep a close watch, because now we're going to start talking about what's happening in trial if anything leaks out. We can only go on the information that we're allowed to know or what we can get. So at this point, I really hope the best for the Kelsey Berreth family. My gosh, this is horrific. It really is, to think that we have these two horrible people. And I'm talking about Krystal and Patrick Frazee. And there's more. I mean, they're friends. They're family. My God. Patrick Frazee's mother witnessed and refused to testify. She pled the fifth. So I found this clip that will better explain what the defense plans to do with Patrick Frazee and their direction in the case.
Kramer has covered this case from the very beginning. He's in studio clearing things up for us.
Yeah, so instead of the alternate suspect defense, Frazee's lawyers will seek the general denial defense that requires the state prove Frazee is guilty beyond reasonable doubt. This not only broadens their options during the trial, but according to a local attorney, the defense will focus on discrediting Krystal Kenny's testimony because of her role in that crime. Instead of pinning Kelsey Berreth's murder on someone else and proving an alternate suspect carried out the crime from start to finish, Patrick Frazee's attorneys plan to poke holes in the state's case. An easier defense, if you will, with hopes of establishing reasonable doubt at his trial.
You're going to keep that scope as wide as you can, but we can also in this document read into it that where they're really putting a lot of their efforts in is going to be attacking the prosecution's star witness, Krystal Lee.
Attorney Stephen Longo says the general denial defense gives Frazee more options to achieve reasonable doubt. Part of that plan, outlined in the endorsed defense and witnesses released today, includes the idea that Krystal Kenny either committed more of the crime than she let on or lied about it. Longo says her plea deal for evidence tampering, despite helping clean up the crime scene and not telling police, could become a target.
They want to tear down her credibility as much as possible. And what better way to do that than say she's more involved in this crime than she's going to say, and that gives her the motivation to fabricate what the defendant, Patrick Frazee, did.
As part of her plea deal, Kenny is required to testify against Frazee.
It just drives me crazy, guys. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and close this out for now. But what I want to do is ask you guys, because you know, you guys sometimes have more information than I do. Share what you know, share what you think below, and let's talk about this trial. And of course, you know, I love you guys so much, and I know those of you that have been keeping up with this, we've all been waiting for this for a long time. Okay, guys, I'll be back. See you soon.